All right, so I wanted to come on here and go through an ad account and go through actual statistics on a product that made us about $500,000 in 3 months. Now, with this campaign that I have pulled up here, this is a single ad to CBO. And I'm going to go through the rest of the ad account throughout the videos. I'm going to go over why we like to employ single ads at CBOs and the mechanics behind that in a different video. But for this one, I want to discuss ROAS, conversion rates, things like that. I want to discuss how we could have optimized this specific campaign with this specific data in isolation. So the very first thing is we need to understand the actual numbers, right? Because at the end of the day, when we're media buying, we are data analysts. That's just point blank period. We have to look at everything here and understand what it is. So first things first, you can see here that we spent about 1.4K and Facebook obviously under tracks. We all know this. This had about a 2 ROAS, so it made us about 2.8K in return. It was a $50 to $55 AOV product with a $25 CPP, a 7 or so, and again, Facebook's under tracking about a $5 to $7 CPATC. And we reached about 40,000 people here. We had about 1,200 people click, 250 or so people add to the cart, and about 60 purchases. That gives us a CPC of a dollar or so, a CTR of about 2%, and a CPM about $25. Now, I want to go into the whiteboard right here and I want to just go over like every single stat and how we could have essentially increased the amount of money we made with this product. So the first things first, let's write down how much we spent. Okay. We spent about 1.4K, and in results, that made us about $2,800. Okay. Now that's about a fat 2 ROAS, okay? That's not bad. That's scalable to about 3K or so per day consistently. That's not bad by any means. Now, the first factor is going to be CPMs. Like I mentioned as well, our CPM is about $25, okay? Now, people tend to think with CPMs that a higher CPM is bad. This is true to a certain extent. If your CPM is like $100, something's wrong. If your CPM is about $50, again, something's wrong. But if your CPM is like $40, 30, 25, it's not the worst thing in the world. Chances are, if you're targeting a higher quality country, you're paying a premium for that traffic. The question is, and this is a kind of a false dichotomy, but it's like, do you want to pay $5 for really, really crap quality traffic that's not going to convert? Or do you want to pay, $25 for, let's say, higher quality traffic that pretty much is guaranteed to at least have some sort of impulse reaction to your site, right? So to manipulate this, we could do a lot of things creative wise, tactical wise, but realistically, if it's not too crazy high, I wouldn't even bother with trying to manage or mess around with your CPM, as that's not really too much in our control as advertisers. It's more or less up to Facebook if they're being a bitch that day or if they're being nice that day. If their stocks are up, then we might be blessed with good CPMs. Other days it might be higher. On Black Friday, we're obviously gonna have higher CPMs, so we kind of get the idea. So next things next, we have CPCs. Okay, we're looking at about a dollar CPC. Now, what we need to understand here is this is something that can be easily manipulated and easily lowered, which will have a drastic result on how much money we make. So, for the sake of example, and I'll come back to this, if we can lower it to 50 cents, you guys will see the impact that this has on the overall stats. Next thing's next, CTR. We're looking at about 2%. Okay, 2% of people are clicking on our ad and going through to our website. Next thing's next, add to cart percentage. With about 250 people on 1.2 grand, we're looking at about 21% of people are adding the cart. Purchases, we're looking at about a 5% conversion rate with about 60 sales on 1,200 people. And last but not least, AOV is about $50 to $55. Okay. Now, back to our CPC. If we had managed to lower the traffic by half basically and cut the cost of getting these people onto our site by half, the difference I would have made is just astounding. Now, for reference, right, we drove 1,200 people. How do we simply cut the CPC in half? Click-through rate's the same because with click-through rate, this is directly related to our impressions, which is about 40,000 people, okay? Which is also related all the way back here to our CPM. How do we lower this? Click-through rate's the same, AOV is the same, purchases are the same, and add to carts are the same. What would have happened is we would have driven 2.5K people to the site, okay? Out of these 2.5K people, 5% would have converted. Let me run the math on that real quick. 5% of people on 2,500 people, that's 125 sales. 125 times about $52 is $6,500. So automatically we would have spent 1.4K to make $6,500. How we managed to cut the cost per click in half, meaning we're getting double the traffic. So this is probably one of the most important factors when it comes to this entire equation. Next thing's next, or CTR, right? So This is inversely tied to our CPM. Let's just assume this is finite, right? We're reaching 40,000 people, period. If we can get a higher percentage of these people to click simply through our offer, things like that, if we can really incentivize them to, hey, click and go to our site, then we would have automatically had the same or similar results as a CPC, which is kind of more influenced by a creative. And this would have made a big impact as well. So these two factors on the ad side of things are super, super important. And a lot of the time people will go, oh, you have to work on your funnel, right? Work on your funnel. But it's like, if you just optimize these two things, you end up making more money than a lot of the things you could do here because to double your conversion rate is very, very hard, okay? Especially when we're already sitting at 5%, which is extremely high for industry standard. But lowering the traffic cost is a lot easier and a lot cheaper. So this is a high leverage, essentially, task compared to something like this. That's not to say you shouldn't test funnels or anything, but it's just to say that if you see some sort of weak link with your CPCs and CTRs, you can likely improve that prior to the conversion rate aspect of things. Now, moving down over here to the add to cart and purchase side of things. Now, if we can increase this, and this is very difficult, we're already sitting at a very high percentile, right? This is very hard. Had we gotten this to 40, right? 40% of people adding the cart, which is just like fucking abysmal and probably not realistic in the slightest because it is realistic for lower ticket products, but with a $50, $55 product, not necessarily. But had we managed to do that, similar results, we would have made a lot more money. But that's just kind of far-fetched. It's very difficult to do. It's kind of like it's reaching that tipping point. It's more like a hyperbolic curve. It just kind of like tapers off around the 20-ish percent, 30-ish percent mark and purchases as well. What could we have employed? We could have employed, maybe timers potentially. Maybe we could have employed, changing the price, the offering. We could have done a couple of things here and there to increase the conversion rate, but overall, these two things will be very, very hard to increase. Now, on the reverse factor, let's say we did have a 50-cent CPC, but our conversion rate was like 2% and our our add to cart ratio was the same. This would have had the same result pretty much as what we got. So if you have a 2% conversion rate, you should be trying to get this to 5% period. Now, last but not least, the final factor I want to cover here is our AOV. How do we manage to just get this to $60, right? And everything else is the same, right? Let me write out same. Had everything else been the same, and I'll run the math right now real quick, right? We drove 1,200 people. We had about 60 of them buy. Had we just gotten the AOV to $60, it would have resulted, and this is one of the best things you can do, $3,600 USD. Look at that. So what we've done right here is we've increased how much money we made by literally $800 for free just by doing a couple of optimizations with, I don't know, OCUs, right? Order bumps, right? One-time offers, OTOs, a lot of different factors, which I can get into different videos. But I just wanted to emphasize like the importance of what exactly we could have done to improve this product. Had I just had this campaign and not like dozens of other campaigns that's making us a bunch of money, like 8 grand plus per day, and I just seen these stats, I would have known internally, well, okay, here's what I can improve, here's what I can do, and that's why this would have made me more money had this just been the data. So with that out of the way, I just wanted to emphasize why you should look at everything as a whole and why you should never look at your day to day as well. Like, had I just been looking at day to day on this campaign, it would have been very wonky. One day we might have had a $3 CPC, another day it might have been 80 cents. But looking at this lifetime, there's a lot of improvements that can be done. So it's very important you understand these factors when you're scaling and you're not just mindlessly kind of roaming around doing random things, expecting your ads to perform better. Treat it like a system, treat it like a video game almost, and you're going to get better results. So, with that said, go and see if you can apply this and let me know what you think in the comments below. If you like the video, feel free to subscribe. You don't have to. And I don't really ask you guys for anything. I mean, like, that's pretty much about it. So I'm gonna head off. Peace.